More strange and troubling details have started to come out about hidden storage lockers connected to Jeffrey Epstein. For years, people have wondered what might have been kept inside those units. Now Joe Rogan is finally giving us a clearer picture, and what he describes as deeply unsettling. Joe mentioned reports suggesting that Epstein had arranged for belongings to be stored in multiple storage units across the United States. The idea was that boxes of documents, electronics, and personal records could have been scattered in different facilities.
Jeffrey Epstein stashed secret files in storage unit across U.S. that may include never-before-seen evidence. Oh.
So this came out yesterday that when he got arrested, he supposedly paid for investigators to go round up all of his stuff and put it in various storage units across the country, like it's a wild goose chase now. And like there's stuff apparently maybe no one's ever seen. They don't know if they're still being paid for. They don't know if.
Imagine if they found, you know, those storage unit shows,
exactly,
where they break into those storage unit shows.
I don't understand.
And it happened on the real time one,
right?
Like they think they're just getting like old baseball cards.
I heard those shows are bullshit. A friend of mine told me that what they do is they'll stock those shows, they'll stock those storage units, and then they pretend that they're buying the storage unit that's been abandoned, and then they get in there and then they find things. But those things were fuck you.
I don't buy any reality TV.
I know, but that's awful.
Well, it's entertainment.
I feel duped.
Do you really?
I do.
Joe, you really thought once in a while you thought it was real?
Not the government corruption, not all the Medicaid fraud, not all the immigration fraud, not all the ICE stuff. No, what really bugs me is lying on a storage unit show.
But this is really about information if we're being completely direct. Because if Epstein really had files on powerful people, financial leaders, politicians, scientists, or celebrities, those files would be extremely valuable.
Why would you let that guy, who's going to eventually get caught, I would assume, if you have a thing for kids, you have a thing for, if you're a pedophile, if you're into like 14-year-old girls, I would assume you're going to get caught. And if I had a guy like that, or was this at a time where you couldn't get caught because there was no internet, and then it got to a point where he had so much power and control because he'd been there for so long, they were like, oh, Jesus Christ, we got a problem.
Well, he's think of it. The criminals, they never think they're getting caught, period. Especially, like, think organized crime. If you're, it's no different like the scenes from Goodfellas, right? You come in, you say, what's the matter with you? I told you, what? You show up with a pink Cadillac? What's the matter with you?
Right.
What's the matter with you? They can't help it. He told everyone, don't
spend the money.
Don't look flashy. This guy, without a doubt.
His wife had a mink coat on, remember that?
What that shit? Right. Take it off. Take it off. He gave it to me for my birthday. Take it off. What's the matter with you? And now that guy, this guy, he's just remember when the steroids came out in baseball?
Uh-huh.
And what they do, they were like, listen, you got to take a hit. You got to take a hit. Mark, Barry Bonds, you guys are going to go out. We're going to front you, but don't worry. You're going to stay in baseball. We'll it'll go away in about 10 years. But the owners are not going to get popped. The people making the steroids injected the people aren't going to get popped.
Well, they got popped. Balco got popped. They got
the
popped.
little
He
guys
went to
get
jail.
popped.
No,
the little ones.
No. The head of Balco went to jail. I had him on the podcast after he got out of jail.
What about the owners that knew it was going? What about the agents and lawyers that are supplying their stuff?
No. Listen, you don't understand about the baseball thing.
That's why I say someone like this guy with a long network, there's so many tentacles all over the place, but you always need the fall guy.
Right.
I mean, was he the demon? Yeah, but there's a lot of demons.
During the podcast discussion, Rogan also brought up another theory that has circulated for years, that Epstein may have been connected to intelligence agencies. Names like the Central Intelligence Agency and Mossad are often mentioned in speculation about the case.
So if he's not working on his own, he's working for an intelligence agency, then they have that information as well. So along the way, so there are no secrets that he's holding. They have all the secrets. This is much more likely. So in order for him to be in the position that he was in, allegedly, working for intelligence agencies, working for either the Mossad, the CIA, or both, all the above, I would assume that along the way, all of the information was shared. I do not believe they would let one person have access to all that information and store it themselves. I think they would have access to it at every step of the way. They would communicate with him at every step of the way. And they would probably have, if I was running a government agency like that, I would say, tell me what's going on. What do you have on Bill Gates? What do you have on Les Wexner? What do you have on these guys?
Yeah.
What are they willing to do? What about these scientists?
Yes.
Are they willing to fill bogus science papers out? And what can we do?
In that scenario, Epstein wouldn't have been the only person holding secrets. Others would have had access to them too. Now, even though his connections to Israeli intelligence have long been rumored and even reported by journalists, no corroboration so far has been greater than the one handed out by ex-CIA officer John Kiriakou.
Piers asked me if I thought Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli Mossad agent. I said absolutely, positively yes.
Do you think, with certainty you said Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent working here in the U.S. as a sleeper cell or whatever they call it?
I believe he was an access agent, which is a very specific kind of
one directorate,
access.
Right? Is that what it means, an access agent? When you have one directorate, you have to complete this task?
No. What it means is, let's say you're the head of Mossad, and you want to know exactly what's going on in Bill Clinton's mind, or Prince Andrew, or Bill Gates, or any of these other people. You're not going to recruit Bill Clinton. He's not going to take your money and then report back to you like, behind the 7-Eleven at 11 o'clock at night. So you do the next best thing. You recruit an agent who's friends with Bill Clinton, or who can become friends with Bill Clinton.
So you tell me he wasn't an agent. He became one. He was recruited to become an agent.
Of course.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So initially, speaking of Ghislaine Maxwell, her dad being a Mossad agent.
I wouldn't be surprised if her dad said to Mossad, listen, my daughter's friendly with this guy. You might want to take a look at him.
I see. And do you think that shapes foreign policy?
100%. Yes.
To have these compromise at these types of people of this caliber, this level, and we're not even sure if they have anything on Trump, and that's why Trump just like this attacks Iran without a question, right?
Yep.
Is that a possibility?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
So-
Trump will say that Netanyahu came, asked him to bomb Iran. He said no. This time Netanyahu said, if you don't, we're going to use nuclear weapons. So Trump did the right thing. He did the friendly thing of bombing them with non-nuclear weapons. So he actually saved a lot of Iranian lives. That's what he wants the storyline to be. We have no idea what the truth is.
And that brings the story back to the missing files, because if documents, hard drives, and recordings really were scattered across storage units or removed from his properties before investigators arrived, then the full picture of what Epstein knew may still be hidden somewhere. And more importantly, a lot of criminals could still be getting away with their crimes. According to reports, Epstein had several secret storage units in the United States. The shocking part is that many of these lockers were never fully searched by authorities. That means some of the material inside may have never been properly examined.
Jeffrey Epstein hid a sick stash of sex slave manuals, videotapes, and photographs of naked women in secret storage lockers to evade cops. The Peeper reportedly paid private detectives to remove equipment from his Florida mansion before a police raid and stash it in rented lockups across the country. Financial records indicate Epstein leased at least 6 storage units over more than a decade, including a facility in Palm Beach, Florida. An inventory of the lockup showed a chilling cache of nude photographs believed to be of Epstein's victims, according to The Telegraph. Amongst the hoard, the disgraced financier was also hiding DVDs sexualizing teenagers, 3 computers, a list of masseuses in Florida, and lab results. Epstein also paid private detectives to hide sex toys, body massages, and women's lingerie, more than $2,000 in cash, a concealed weapon permit, and the Harvard ID card. Copies of the 2 computer hard drives were recovered by the FBI, but it's not known if any of the material in the lockup was ever found. Search warrants suggest US authorities never raided the lockers, meaning they may still contain unseen evidence relating to Epstein and the likes of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Lord Mandelson. Emails and credit card statements show Epstein was leasing a self-storage unit in Florida from 2003, overlapping with his years in Palm Beach. Transactions show Epstein made monthly payments of around $140 for a unit until 2019, the year of his death. Authorities have long suspected Epstein was tipped off about the first police raid on his Palm Beach mansion in 2005. Separate emails indicate Epstein's staff discussed moving computers and CDs from Little St. James, his private island in the US Virgin Islands, into hidden lockups. The FBI declined to say whether any external units had ever been searched. It remains unclear whether any of the material was destroyed, relocated, or retained by Epstein's estate after his death.
There were also dozens of phone directories. That detail caught people's attention because Epstein was known to keep massive contact lists that included powerful and wealthy individuals from around the world. Another item on the list was an old 8mm tape with handwritten notes describing different scenes and moments. Authorities later said that millions of images and videos were eventually pulled from Epstein's electronic devices during investigations. Only a small percentage of those files were flagged as important evidence, but the sheer volume shocked investigators. The inventory also mentioned printed pages connected to massage services in Florida. That stood out because many allegations tied to Epstein involved massage rooms inside his homes. Prosecutors have said those rooms played a role in several of the accusations brought against him over the years. There were also many photographs stored in the unit. Some of them had handwritten notes on the back. One photo reportedly had a message written directly to Epstein, telling him never to forget the person in the picture.
Tonight, we've learned the town of Palm Beach police investigated Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell 3 years before the 2005 case that led to crime charges and a conviction in Florida. A newly uncovered 2001 police report shows students at what was then Palm Beach Atlantic College, now university, told detectives Maxwell was recruiting young women on campus for Epstein. The newly found handwritten notes suggest police may not have heard the full story. Our investigative reporter Terry Parker is here after looking through the documents. She has more. Terry?
Thank you, Todd. You know, for years, we believe the first Palm Beach investigation into Epstein began in 2005. But records now show detectives opened a prosecution inquiry in 2001 after Palm Beach Atlantic students reported Maxwell recruiting them on campus. And while digging through the Epstein files, I uncovered handwritten notes from what appears to be one of those young women, describing details far more explicit than what appears in the original police report. It was September 2001 at Palm Beach Atlantic College. A 20-year-old student wrote she was approached out of the blue by Ghislaine Maxwell and asked if she were interested in secretarial work. I said no. What about for $200? I said sure. The student recounted the job quickly escalated into giving Jeffrey Epstein massages, describing all over touch of her body, by the pool, in the kitchen, and upstairs where she says encounters became more intimate. Her reflection? This is how rich people live. Beautiful, naked people around. In December 2001, Palm Beach police were referred a case from West Palm Beach police titled Epstein Prostitution. The report states Maxwell was hiring young, beautiful, unmarried women, getting them from the PBAU campus to answer phones at her Palm Beach mansion. 3 students told police Epstein touched 2 of them inappropriately, and that Maxwell wanted names of other girls because she needed a large pool to call. Detectives conducted surveillance, pulled trash, and subpoenaed phone records. 4 months later, after interviewing 3 women who confirmed they worked at the mansion and observed topless women and frequent massages, detectives concluded, although it appears as though unusual activity is occurring at this residence, at this time, no illegal activity has been reported or detected. The case was filed as intelligence only.
What really shocked many people is the possibility that the FBI may never have fully searched these storage lockers. If that's true, it means important evidence could have remained hidden for years. That's one reason the story keeps coming back into the spotlight. Every time new documents surface, more questions appear. What exactly was inside those units? Why weren't they searched sooner?
The FBI has been able to identify 187 undeclared Israeli Mossad agents spread all across the United States, spying on our defense contractors to steal our defense secrets. Now, we give the Israelis 99% of what we have. They want to steal that last 1%. There's a famous story when we built the F-35. We said to them, look, we developed this new fighter jet. It's stealth. It's this, it's that. It's amazing. Everybody's going to get it. It's the F-35. They said, we want it. We said, great. We're going to give it to you. We're going to call it the F-35I for Israel. And we're going to just very slightly degrade the avionics. So God forbid, if it's shot down by the Iranians or the Syrians or the Russians and they get the avionics, they won't be able to duplicate it. They said, no. We want the F-35 with the avionics. We said, no. Okay, so they're trying to steal the avionics.
And the message also confirmed something investigators had suspected all along. Material had been removed from Epstein's house before police arrived. Years later, a former Palm Beach police chief described the scene when officers finally searched the property.
A former Palm Beach police chief who investigated Epstein in the mid-2000s told the FBI he had received a call from Donald Trump to say, quote, "Thank goodness you're stopping him." That's according to an FBI account of an interview with the ex-police chief in 2019. The police chief's name, Michael Ryder, is redacted from the document on the DOJ's website, but the information in the FBI statement lines up with Ryder's role in the investigation that began in 2005. Ryder's detectives were investigating Epstein for allegedly recruiting girls as young as 14.
Joe Rogan also pointed out that some things didn't add up about Epstein's death. According to the autopsy, the body examined after Epstein's death reportedly had a prostate that was slightly and diffusely enlarged. In medical terms, that's not unusual for many older men. The problem, though, was that other documents suggested something very different.
The testes are unremarkable. That's the last thing I want anybody to say about my nuts. I want them to say, wow, what a great pair.
Great body, but the nuts are
unremarkable.
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 So here is some sort of discussion between him and someone.
Okay. The guy says exactly, not clear what effects hormones might have on that aren't replaced by testosterone. The advantage of taking testosterone, there are two different things. You can have high testosterone and still have a need for Viagra because you don't have a prostate, right? And then Epstein says, correct.
And then at the bottom they show another document.
Hold on, let me keep going there. Yeah. So that's an extreme example. I was actually going to try and move up one level, sort of enhancing life. If you don't mind it, he doesn't mind it. I'm sort of outer space thinking. Oh, so he's trying to juice up. So he's saying I'm moving up one level of sort of drug enhancing life. I don't know what, I think he means he's gonna start juicing. That's what it sounds like.
So he doesn't have a
doesn't
prostate?
have a prostate, it says.
Another document that says something about it after a radical prostatectomy.
Prostatectomy.
So when they take out your prostate?
But that doesn't necessarily say he had his. I think it's a document.
But he said he doesn't have a prostate, and it says patient Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
It says, according to the American Urological Association, serum PSA should decrease and remain at undetectable levels after radical prostatectomy.
There's other documents where
prostatectomy.
He's contacting doctors that specialize in that very thing.
Okay, so the doctor saying he had a radical prostatectomy. He's saying he does not have a prostate, but yet the body from the autopsy talks about the prostate is slightly and diffusely enlarged. So that's not his body? That's what it seems like.
So that's almost 6 months after he died, they're asking for a document about the investigation of the murder of Jeffrey Epstein.
Was that because there was accusations that it was a murder?
I don't
So
know.
We talked about this before, that 18 days before he allegedly committed suicide, he complained that his cellmate tried to kill him. And you know who his cellmate is?
Who?
Oh, you don't know?
No.
I'm Kurt Metzger. You don't know? Oh, you don't know? His cellmate was this gigantic cop who was a murderer. He had killed 4 different drug dealers. Yeah, he was a contract killer. This is the guy. That's his cellmate. Look at that gorilla.
That's a silverback.
Yeah, dirty cop, murder. And then they said, most high-profile witness of all time, defendant of all time. Let's put him in jail with a murder. A guy who contract kills. Dirty cop. And then he says the report was they found him unresponsive with a noose around his neck, or an orange jumpsuit turned into a rope around his neck. And then he said that his cellmate tried to kill him.
My question, does anyone really believe he was in a jail cell? Because I know if I had the guy that can unravel entire government dynasties and take down an entire system, the last thing, dude, he's somewhere about 3 miles underground with maybe a ball in his mouth with electric rods. Or
he's in Israel sipping Mai Tais.
Correct. Either place, it's like that video you said. You sent this on a runaround. We're gonna ask you one more time, or then we're gonna laser off your nips. I'm telling you right now. We need.
Yeah, I doubt they're doing that to him.
So it's he's either in Israel, like you said.
If they had that, they would just get rid of his body.
To Rogan and his guest, the situation seemed odd. Epstein was one of the most high-profile detainees in the country, someone connected to powerful people, major financial figures, and global investigations. Why, they wondered, would someone like that be housed with such a dangerous cellmate? Then they raised another point that had fueled speculation for years: the missing surveillance footage.
Is there any video of him in jail? Are there any photos of him in jail? I've never thought about that before, but what you're saying is a good point.
If let's say you were the person that had all this incredible information around the world, bribery, do you really think you take drug lords? You're not killing them. You need the information. So you're going to bring him somewhere and you're going to milk him to it, however that is, whether he's tied up, whether you're going to torment him. Be like, listen, I'm telling you right now, we're going to take care of you. However, I need to know. You say there's tapes, right? Yeah. Where are the tapes? Write them down. And you're going to stay. Don't feed him. Don't feed him until we get that one tape and we have these names in our hands. And that's probably been going on even for months, for years. You're not taking someone like that and going, oh, we're just gonna put this very valuable human being into a jail cell where
with a multiple murder,
with two guys making
killer.
$18 an hour are gonna watch him.
Who are sleeping.
But come on, stop.
When the cameras are down.
Stop. They pre-production. All right, so let's get the green screen and we have him walking in here, sir. Does that look somewhat? And then we can release it down the road. It's processed Hollywood nonsense. I don't buy it.
As pressure around the Epstein investigation has continued to grow, another voice has stepped into the spotlight. And this time, it's from inside Washington. Anna Paulina Luna made headlines after publicly discussing what she believed the Epstein operation really was. According to her, the evidence emerging from recent questioning was pointing towards something far bigger than just one wealthy financier.
What I will say is it has become very evident, even in the last 24 hours in lines of questioning, that Jeffrey Epstein was running an intelligence gathering operation. In my professional opinion, I do believe it was a honeypot operation. And I do believe that there's a list of individuals who did engage in trafficking, were given these plea deals, and I'm going to name those individuals right now. The first one would be Leslie Groff. The second one, Sarah Kellen. The third one, Nadia Markova. And the fourth one, Adriana Ross. All of these women engaged in the trafficking of minors as adults. They were working and complicit with Jeffrey Epstein's operation. And in my opinion, they are not to be given victim status because they did partake in harming young girls. I remember seeing in some of the files, some of these girls were, as young as 10, 11 years old and older. And so obviously we have a lot of work to do, but I did want to come and give an update and let you know that President Clinton, as of right now, is cooperative and answering all of our questions. And that it leads me to believe that if we can remove the partisan nature of this investigation, we actually might be able to get justice. And so I will be calling on the Oversight Committee to bring in those 4 individuals that I just listed. We will continue to conduct the investigation and provide updates shortly for all of you.
But while lawmakers debated inside Washington, survivors of the case were still speaking out publicly about what they experienced years earlier. One of them was Tisha Houseman. Houseman described her encounter with Epstein's circle as something she still struggles to process decades later. Back in 1991, she was a young model in Paris when she crossed paths with Epstein and one of his associates, Jean-Luc Brunel. At the time, Brunel was a powerful figure in the modeling world. He ran agencies and had connections throughout the fashion industry. But according to multiple accusations that surfaced years later, his agencies were survivors like her and Virginia Giuffre. The biggest frustration has always been the same. They believe Epstein wasn't operating alone. They say it was a network. Not just Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell or Brunel, but a much larger system involving powerful men, recruiters, and intermediaries working together across multiple countries. Do you think we'll ever see any of them brought to justice? Let us know in the comments below.